Okay, good morning. I'm really thrilled to see how many we do have up on here looking at our School of Innovation application. The way it's going to work this morning is that I'm going to talk about the application process and Denise is going to talk about the plan and in the innovative ideas and things. But to give us an idea of the experience or where you are in the process of School of Innovation, Denise is going to begin with a poll.
Good morning. I am going to launch a poll, and those of you out there, I see some familiar names. I'm excited about that. You should be able to, in just a second, see a poll, and it's going to ask you to make a selection, and this is to help us know what your readiness state is, and particularly for submitting a School of Innovation application. So if you're red, then you're just starting to explore innovation possibilities and you need ideas. If you're orange, then you've had some exposure to innovative ideas and you want to know more about what might work in your school. If you're yellow, you have ideas that you want to implement and you're thinking about the School of Innovation application, but you also might be thinking about charter or district waivers. You're just not sure when you will act on those. And then green, for those of you out there who are green, make that selection if you are actually in the planning phase and working on a School of Innovation application that you plan to submit this year. And that could even be district waivers as well. And so far I see we have 3 of you that have responded, and we'll wait just a minute to see where we are. I love this because I can tell how many viewers there are and how many have answered. So it'll give me a sense. And then I'll show you our results. So waiting on just a couple of people out there who may or may not have had to step away from their computer. And I will end the poll in about 10 seconds. So if you're trying to decide on your vote, choose one that's close. All right, excellent. I am going to end the poll and it's going to let me share the results. And you can see that 43% of you are in the green phase. Terrific. We're really glad you joined us because Cindy is your contact person for all things application. 29% of you are in orange. You've had some innovative ideas exposure, but you're wanting to go a little bit deeper and figure out what works in your school. We've got a yellow, 14% of you are yellow and 14% are red. So a nice diverse group that we're working with this morning, Cindy.
Good.
All right.
Okay, let me tell you, we cannot hear y'all because the way the program's set up, but there are 2 ways that you can communicate with us. One is you can raise your hand, which Denise may know, but I'm new at this, so I'm still learning. But one of them is where you have a question and answer. This is if you have a certain question about what I'm telling you or what Denise is telling you and you want some further explanation, but we're only going to do it at the end. So after I finish my section on the application process, I will look at all the questions and answer them at that time, and Denise will do the same thing for us. Now at the end, we probably will open it up again for some questions and answer. Another thing at the bottom you'll see is a chat button. Now if you use the chat button, that everybody can see that question, and that may be what you want. You may be wanting to get information from somebody else too, but I just wanted to tell you how the 2 of them work. So
also, Cindy, something also with the Q&A. If you type your questions into the question and answer box, then those questions and those answers will be captured. So if you get to the point, those of you viewers out there, and you need to go back and you didn't catch a specific note, you'd be able to watch the webinar and access those question and answer components. So it's a great way to capture your notes as well in terms of important questions you might have and the answers that either of us can provide.
Good, I didn't know that. So that's good. We're going to start. I've got a PowerPoint, and then I actually have access to an application. So I'm going to go through the application with y'all to show every step. If you've done it in the past, it's changed a little, and hopefully for the ease, making it easier, it's changed. So let me pull up my, hang on. I've got to share my screen, right?
Yep.
And then I have to select a window application. Can y'all see that? My PowerPoint, or are you still seeing just me?
Still seeing just you. There we go. There we go. Now we can see your PowerPoint.
Thanks. So here it is, just in case you need Denise's name. At the end, we'll also have her webmail, and she may probably even have her phone number on hers too.
Yes.
So, okay. Last year, if you watched this, you know this already, but the primary purpose of the School of Innovation is to give schools a way to do something innovative, and it's much like what you do with a charter school, except that it's easier process, but the problem is we do not have all of the waivers that a charter school has, such as you cannot get a waiver for GT, and you cannot get a waiver for teacher fair dismissal, but you can get most of the other waivers too. So this is just one of these things that you've looked at. It's something you've always wanted to do, but the problem was the state had laws or regulations or rules that kept you from doing it. So what you can do through the School of Innovation is actually do this thing and request to get a waiver so you can go on with your plan. So when you get started, to answer what, you first need to answer why. You don't just do an innovation plan for the fun of it. You need to have a purpose, and it may be the students, it may be the culture in your school. There's several things it causes, but you need to figure out, why are you doing this? You're not doing it because the district next door did it. You're doing it because there's something in your school that you feel like there's a problem, or that you're just trying to improve. So reasons for applying. Do you have problems you're trying to solve to enhance conditions or routines? Also, you need to look at which students' needs are not being met. So the thing is, if you do a School of Innovation, it may be for a certain population, and that's fine. So it may be a class size thing. It may be a blended. It's trying to get more courses in. So you have some kids who actually want to take more subjects, but because of what they are required to take, it seems to be taking up all of their choices. And so you can actually ask for like blended courses and things like that. But your data needs to help you identify specific needs. What it is a challenge in your school. So you need to have data to show why this is important. Why are you doing this? So here's the kind of data that you really need to look at. Graduation rate, attendance, assessment scores, surveys. You can also have surveys for parents or students to find out if there's things that even if why they're tardy all the time, or why they're dropping out, or whatever it might be. So do surveys. College remediation, and then post-high school. What are they doing after high school? So one of the things you have to start with is really developing your goal and your vision. You need to look at your school, your district vision at the same time, and see how does it relate to what the school vision is. What is your goal? Why are you doing this? What do you want it to look like when you have implemented this program and have tried it? And then who will benefit from the plan? So this is where this is where the data comes. What group or what school or who are you trying to help? You know, it could even be parent involvement. It could be something such as that you don't feel like the parents are doing their job and helping. Maybe they don't know how. What's something you could do? And there really are a lot of schools out there that are doing some great things with parents too. Let me put a plug in for a series. If you've not watched it, we're doing a series on schools that are doing innovative things. And so far we have presented on our website 3 of them. And so we'll have 9 at the end of this year of schools that are doing something innovative. So look online and look at, so far we've done West Memphis, Warren, and KIPP Academy. So I would recommend looking at those and keeping up with them through the year. And how will you know if you're making progress? And that's very important. One of those, that goes also back to your goal and what is it you want it to look like when you finish the program. So you need to plan up front. This is what we want. How are we going to know we got there? Because if you never know what it's going to look like when you get there, then you're not going to know when you arrive. So make sure that you know up front, what goals are we looking at? How are we showing that we've made it? What data are we using to prove that we've made it? And also keep in mind that making these changes is also going to be difficult for some of your faculty and leaders and parents and even students. So big part of your plan needs to be, how are you going to prepare teachers? How are you going to prepare students? How are you going to prepare parents for these changes? In Warren, I would tell you right now that they actually do, they do not give grades. They actually have standards-based learning down there. So they started with the younger grades, but a big part of theirs was training the parents on what it's going to look like, because it's totally different. Parents are used to seeing grades. They're not used to discussing standards and seeing where they are. So as you're planning, really put thought into these. So keep in mind the why, the what, and the how. So when you're looking at it, this is how we can help. You have ideas, you ask what is it keeping you from doing these ideas, and then you ask for waivers if needed. And here's some resources. Our homepage, we're trying to improve it daily. The charter school homepage, you can see what some charter schools are doing, because you can get waivers to do the same thing. So check their page out. Denise will be happy, and her group up there will be happy to work with y'all and help y'all come up. So a lot of times it may be that you know what the problem is, you know what you want to look like, but you just don't know how to do it. And that's where Denise will come in and help you develop a really thorough, well-designed plan too. As far as the technical part, and also I can help you with ideas, but Denise will be better at that. But the technical part, definitely you need to contact me. Also, I want to stress, if you're secondary education and you're talking about blending courses, make sure they get approved through Thomas Coy first, because what is horrible is if you've done something, you have not coded it right in the student's transcript, and they get in time for graduating and they don't have all their courses that they think they have. So really make sure that you've talked to Tommy to make sure that everything is done correctly. Okay, what I want to do right now is to show you the application. To get into the application, you've got to have a Tri-In district account. So I don't know if you have somebody in the district who will be doing this for you, or if you have access to it, but you'll have to have where you have district access to it. So this is a sample one, so it's Bentonville. When you open up, it's going to be the district information. So before you got to this page, it actually asks you which district. Once you click on which district it is, then it automatically feeds this information in. So you do not have to put all this information in. It automatically does it when you choose the district. Then we come down, and let me scoot this over so I can see it. And you choose which school. What is your school? And once you do that, then you go over and you've got edit the application or delete the application. So let's go with edit. And this is where it starts. And this is where some of the changes have made that you'll see if you've done one in the past. One of the things we look at is the special conditions. So if you're in academic distress, you can check as many of these as apply to you. So there's a whole list: facilities distress, rewards school for growth, rewards school for performance, achieving school, needs improvement school, a focus school, a priority school, an exemplary school. So check as many of those that apply. Then you come down here and see what your school rating was and check that one too. I know that last year we had a school innovation was a brand new LEA because the district had built a new school and they decided to do it. So if that's the case, make sure you do that. And we may not have you in the system, but do not worry, call me and we can get you in the system at this point. And also if it's an ALE, let us know, because a lot of times your needs will be different. And if you're an ALE, we really look at your application a little different too, because it is a special population that you're working with. Then you hit save at the bottom. And it's not going to let me, so I'm just going to put achieving and a B and a no and a no and save.
Your B didn't take effect.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Now we go to the next. This is where when I talk about your goals and your vision and your mission, what you're going to do is really describe, like I said, I want you to tie in your district along with what your school's vision is going to be. And so give the school district's vision statement and the school's statement also. And then the mission, how's this going to work? What's your mission to be to meet these things? Your school, this is just us telling us what your vision is and what your mission is. But when we get down to your plan, then that should reflect back to this. So if your vision is to have 100% students attending college not to need remediation, then you're going to work on school climate. That's not really addressing that. So make sure that your vision matches whatever your plan is. Create problem solvers is the example here. So we're going to save and move on. So, oh, this is the same thing. Obviously, oh, okay, next. Goals and performance targets. What are your goals? And this is really when you need to think it out. And your goals is to change the mindset about the program you're doing, or to work with the teachers on making those changes, then that's part of it. If it's educating this, if it's a new way of teaching, or you're dealing with a special population, you feel like the teachers need more training, then this is also one of your goals, that they're prepared to implement this program. If it's the students, what is it your goal for the students? If it's to improve attendance, then what are you doing to improve attendance? And there are schools out there that are doing that. So that's where Denise will have some ideas. Won't you, Denise, to help?
Yes.
That's the kind of thing. So make sure, though, that it ties in. I don't know if, let's see. And you'll notice that all the way through this, there's reviewer comments, and we'll get to that when I talk about the timeline in a little while. But that was not by you. This is where the Department of Ed does it. So, and then down here, when you've told us all about, you know, what your rationale is, then down here is where you're going to do your goals. You go in, tell us what the goal is. Hang on, let me see if I can pull that up. Here we go. What your performance target is, what changes you expect to happen, and then how are you going to know you've done it? What is the data? How are you going to prove it? How are you going to show it? And like I said, it's just something, it's not just, well, we'll recognize it when we get there. We need to know how you're going to recognize it when you get there. So this is very important, because, and I will tell you that the assistant commissioners are the first group to look at this, and that is very important to them, is how are you rating this? How are you going to know? How are you going to prove, what data are you going to use to show that this plan is working? And you do that for as many goals. Do not have more than 5 goals. Really try to keep this down. You know, if you want to change it in the future, you can, and we'll talk about that. Probably not today, because you're not to that point where we're talking about changing it. But make them realistic goals, and think about everybody who's going to be involved with making this change successful. It's very important that if you're involving the parents, then what is your goal? What is it? What change do you want them to do, or what information you want them to have? Or what do you want them to learn, or do you want them to be involved? So make sure that your goals are really spelled out here too. And then your innovations. So here is where you're really thinking what it is that you're going to explain, how your innovations are going to help transform. What is this that you're going to do that's going to make the difference that you want? And how is it going to improve what it is that you're doing? So this is where you really need a lot of the intake from your, and I'm blanking on what it's called, your committee of innovation, which you need to have your committee of innovation. This is where you want input from teachers, if you're high school, from students. If you have high minority, you need to have minority parents represented too. You need leadership from the district and from the school. You need community people. One of the things I'm seeing in a lot of these innovative schools is this really strong working relationship with the communities. So involve them into it too. They're also a good one. If they understand what you're doing, and there's a lot of talk, you know how it goes in communities, that they're just, if they don't understand it, then it's bad, you know, sometimes. So if you have community people who are out and about and can really explain what you're doing, defend what you're doing, that's going to be a major help for your change at the same time. So here's your innovation, and here's your purpose. Those are the 2 things. Why are you doing? What are you going to be doing, and why are you going to be doing it? And if you got several innovations, then each time just add a new row, and it'll go in and do that. So, but I do want you to put a lot of thought into it. If you've got 9,000 innovations, you're never going to get them done. So be realistic about it too. So here is your timeline. And go back to your goals, go back to your innovations, go back to this. Here's the date. Here's what you're going to be doing. Here's the expected outcome. And the date is when you're going to start it. You may want to put in the expected outcomes, you may want to end up going, saying something, and by the end of the year, we expect to have this. You know, here's our action and here's what we expected the outcome to be. But we want to know here the date. Your plan is for 3 years. So it may not be that you're doing everything the first year. So think down the road for the 3 years. What are you going to be doing? So don't try to cram in too much, especially if you're really doing a big part on training parents or teachers or making some changes. You feel like that it's a major change for them. A whole lot of learning needs to go on. It's going to be a sharp learning curve. Then put time into the pre-work. So it may be that actually some of what you're doing is not going to start to year 2 or to second semester. So make sure that you put that in, and this is one more thing. Add rows as you do. For each action you have, add a row for it. And then this is the requested waivers. This is where you're going to add a waiver. You need to go look at this. In fact, on our webpage, if it's not there, request and ask me. I'm sorry, it's been so long since I looked at it, made changes. But what we need to make sure is we have are the standards and the rules and the standards, because that's what you go by. Do not go by the standards checklist that they gave you when they come out and do a monitoring visit. You need to go by the standards and the rules also, and tell us which one it is that's keeping you from doing it. The thing is, we had some who went through and did one and realized that what they wanted to do, they didn't have to ask any waivers. They had the right to do all of it. So really pay attention to that, because there are some things that you want to change. There's nothing keeping you from changing it. So you don't have to go through this process. But this is where you're going to add what the waiver is, and it'll look just like this. What's the code section, the status, and the tools too. Okay. Here is your Council of Innovation. If you remember last year in the past, you had to turn in all their names, what the vote was, and things like that. We're not going to require you to do that. We do want to know who the council members are. If they're representing parents, minority parents, community, school leaders, student, whatever, we do want to know that. So the date that they're elected. You'll just keep adding these as you go through. We do not need to know. Well, here's what it says. The council is composed, and I've discussed all this already. What this is where I'm going to comment that I'm not seeing people, because the thing is I'll go back and look at what is your minority. And if you don't have a minority parent represented, we need at least an explanation somewhere on why you don't. And sometimes I do understand it's hard to get parents involved in some things, but we want to also know that what you did attempt and try. So once you get all your councils, you need to have a good number working one. Don't have, Denise, how many do you suggest to be on a good working council? Do you have any number?
In terms of a group that's going to advise you, I mean, if you have the required composition, if you have just the very least, if you had a 2 and 2 teachers, 2 classified employees, the principal, 2 parents, sometimes those parents are also community members, and 2 students, then you're looking at, right there, you've got 1, 2, 3, you've got 4, 5, and another 4, that's 9, and then 2 more, so you're up to 11, possibly 12. Right there, you've got a pretty big group for accomplishing work. So sometimes the council needs, if you can keep it confined to, there's this old saying that 12 is a great number in terms of getting work done and also having enough people to handle the deeper work if you divide and conquer. So I would say I wouldn't want to have it much larger than 12.
And the thing is, keep in mind that some of these are representing groups. And
right.
So especially teachers and also the paras, they're going to go back and represent the group too. So they should be getting ideas from them and reporting back what you are discussing. And the same with students. It's going to be harder with students, but there probably is a student council that they can go back and report to at the same time. And you can have parent meetings where they can share that information. So it's not like you feel like you have to have so many to make sure it's fair. Do like Denise, keep it down where you really have a good working group. And if you have too many in there, it's just next to impossible to get a lot accomplished. So really think about who goes into it. Now keep in mind that teachers and most of them have to be elected. So teachers and the paras have to be elected. Principals, building principals, those do not. Community does not, because there's no way you're going to have a big vote in the community. So that one, if you already have a person who works with your school and knows your school, invite them to be your community representative.
Parents have to be elected too, right, Cindy?
Yes, they have to be elected also.
And if you're selecting students, then one of the things that I would definitely recommend is that you not necessarily select, if your students are being recommended, be careful not to just have your teacher pleasers, the kids who are already well served within your programs. You want to have kids who may not be well served, who can bring some of those ideas to the table that you may not get if you were just bringing in your traditional teacher pleaser, I'm involved in everything kids.
Oh, yes, that's a good point right there. I always said when I was principal and we would have the teacher handbook parents on there, I would say invite the ones who the parents have got kids in the office all the time because they know the handbook.
That's right.
Okay. Oh, I have to required to do something. And then here's the shared leadership. And really what this means is how is it that you're working with your staff and your parents that they feel empowered? Are you having meetings? What are the meetings about? We do not need to see your agendas. We do not need to see all that, but we want to know basically down here what it was that you did, how often you met, and what the purpose was. If it was to introduce the plan, if it was to get their feedback on a topic, tell us what the purpose of it. But we do not need to see sign-in sheets. We do not need to see the meeting, and we do the meeting dates, but we don't need to see agendas and things like that. We're trusting y'all that you're doing what you know, is required to do, that you are involving these people. So. And here's their election results. In the past, we've had them turn in the sheets that show how they voted. This time, we're not going to do all that. You've got we want to know the number of people who did vote, the number you have on staff, the number who voted, the number who voted for the proposed plan, because keep in mind, you've got to have 60% of your faculty approve this plan or it doesn't go further. So that's why we need to know that information. And so the ones who voted for it and the ones who voted against it. So.
And you just need numbers here, Cindy, right?
Need numbers, that's all we need, yes. And then the professional development, and that goes back to really to change the climate, to prepare the teachers for whatever it is you're doing. We really want to know what it is that you're doing to prepare them. Is it a training? Is it bringing in a speaker? Is it a book study? But what is going on? And it may be that you use PLCs and that's where part of it's going on at the same time. But we want to know how you're preparing through professional development. How are you preparing your teachers and your staff for this change? So down here, it is the date, the audience, if it was the teachers, administrators, or other staff. Sometimes it'll just be grade level teachers. Sometimes it's going to be support staff. And then the purpose. So once again, we don't need sign-in sheets. We don't really need your agenda, but we do want to know the purpose for it. And once again, you add more rows as you go through it. And this one is completing the chart of professional development sessions that will occur if the school is designated as a school of innovation. Above, this was in preparation. What are you doing that calls the teachers to really understand that this is the plan? This is, once they get the plan, what are you going to do then? And there are two different things. A lot of times, it's not fair to teachers just to have you come in and explain it and then to vote on it. They really need to have a good understanding of what the plan is. And it may be your your professional development plan may be sharing other schools. It may be sending them out to schools to look at what they're doing. So it can be any kind of what you consider preparing them, which is what we consider professional development. And then this one is, what have you done once we get into it? Okay, let me explain the budget part. These are the different things we're going to ask for you to turn in. These are some of the ones, the only ones that are going to have to be scanned. In the past, y'all had to scan in a lot of documents, and we're not going to ask so much this time. On the budget, we want to know how you're going to pay for this. If it's part of your regular budget that's assigned to you, that's wonderful. If you're having contributions, but we want to know how much it's going to cost to implement it and where you're getting the funds. If you're getting the funds from the district, it's going to put in extra money. We want some kind of documentation from the superintendent that yes, they will be supplying this money. So think about everything's going to, is it technology that you're going to need? Is it books you're going to need? Sometimes you may have plans that are not going to cost you anything at all. So you'll have to just put in there if there's no expenses with this innovation plan. So think about it realistically, what it's going to cost. If it's something you already have, you may want to document that this is one supplies we need, but it's already in our school. So we already have. But the main thing is we want to know if you're spending money that the superintendent is also aware that you're planning on spending this money too. So just tell us where it's coming from. References. This one is for whatever, where did you get this idea? What kind of research backs up what your plan is? And so what we want to do is you just somewhere have a documentation of whatever, like a bibliography, but it can also be that a school spoke to you. Where are you getting this, and how are you knowing it's a plan that's going to work, or that it's being tried, or it's brand new, and you've put these ideas together for something else. In fact, if you want to use Denise as a reference, as this is where you got this great idea.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, so here are the documentation, the references. We'll also review on this one too. Okay, this is where you'll have to download a PDF form, the resolution that the board signed, or the board president signed, and the superintendent signed, showing that they were aware of this and they approve of this and they're supporting this. So, and you can do PDF or Word document for this one. The typical standards of assurance, which we will have that on our website. You'll just copy that off. This is where the superintendent signs, and this is just backing up that this is what we say that we're going to do if we get this grant, and the superintendent's signature on there that we can expect it to be done, and that you're following the rules and whatever. It's just assurances that all these things are being taken care of. And then additional documentation. If there's anything else you feel like that we need to know that really is important, and the fact that when the assistant commissioners are looking at this and deciding your plan, you feel like that they need to know this about your school or about your plan or about your community or whatever. This is where you can give more information to that. Do not make it a book, because I can tell you they're not going to read a book. But really, if it's important, then let us know about it. The timeline is going to work that the application can be turned in any time between now and, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's January the 29th. At that point, if you want to send it to me before January the 29th, just for technical questions or corrections or just questions, call me, and that's fine, and I'll look at it and make the changes. I'll tell you what changes need to be made. January the 29th, once you have it in, if you have it in by 4 o'clock that afternoon, the next week, we will actually have a small committee of people from the Department of Ed and from outside the Department of Ed, and Denise will be a part of it too, where we're going to look through it and we're going to make suggestions or any changes you might need to be. What our goal is truly to make it a stronger application for you. So our job is not to really critique it. We're going to review it, and we're going to make comments that we think will make it, well, we're going to tell you if something needs to be changed. We'll do that. Also comments will help it make you stronger, and it may be that it's just that we need a stronger explanation, or you need to address the needs more from that group, or whatever the needs, whatever it might be. But that'll come in on where you see the reviewers' comments too. The timeline then is after that, we'll send you the stuff as soon as we can. You'll make the changes, and in March, the final copy will come out. At that point, we load it into the database, and then we send it to the assistant commissioners. They look through them. They may even call you to get some clarification. And so we'll let you know if that's the case when they'll be looking at it, so somebody will be around to answer any questions they might have. The thing is, they are, once again, they truly want to understand what it is. They do want to approve it, but they may have some clarification questions. Once they go through it, they'll send their recommendations to the commissioner. They'll also send the ones that they're not recommended to the commissioners, because he may have questions and he may want to see, because he can, at that point, it's all in his court. He's the one who makes the decisions. And I will tell you at this point, once the commissioner makes a decision, there's no debate about it. So you can't come back and ask for him to relook at it. So, and then by the 1st of May, I think it's the end of April, we'll be announcing the Schools of Innovation. So that is the technical side of it. I haven't even looked for questions to do it. Hang on, let me get out of this.
Cindy, we have a question in the Q&A that I would like to have answered live. Can I read it to you?
Sure, yes.
It says if a group is trying to get the application in prior to the deadline so that they can have it reviewed, they would hesitate to put it before the board if it might need modifications. Can they submit it before without the board certification or without the board approval so that they can get it reviewed, or does it need to be totally complete by that January 29 deadline, that January deadline, the soft deadline?
That's a good question. No, it doesn't. You know, because at that point you do want it to be the best before you present it. So no, it does not. When it comes in on the March one, it has to be completed at that point. But the January one, you don't have to have details like that involved. If we're just looking at the plan, we do want to know, as far as the filling in the blanks on who's on the committees, that kind of thing, we do want to know about that and what meetings you've had up front to prepare for it. So yes, we need to know that. But as far as having the board and the superintendent sign the assurances, at this point, no.
Great. Also, Cindy, I had a question that came up in one of our meetings last week with a group, and that is we do have districts out there, or we have schools out there that are really on the cusp. They're not sure if they would qualify as 10% minority. Are you looking at that percentage of minority based on the student enrollment, and what groups are considered as minority for the purposes of determining that 10%?
You know, we really just looked at like Hispanic, and you know, just in Springdale, like the Marshallese, that would be considered one. You know, we've never addressed like poverty or anything like that. We've not. It would be a good idea to involve those parents, I'll be honest. But we've mainly just looked at race is what we've looked at. So
okay. So if a school were to look at their number of African Americans, Hispanic students, Pacific Islanders, and Native Americans, and the total of those kids that were in those race groups, the percentage became at least 10%, then they might want to be safe in making sure that they have a parent representative that is a minority representative.
I would do that. Yes, I would.
Okay.
All of them adding up to 10%. It's not just one group. I would have a minority parent.
Okay.
Okay, if there's not any more questions, and it's Denise.
All right.
Give them wonderful ideas.
Yeah, and so far, you guys, I've been monitoring the Q&A for Cindy while she's been talking, and she'll be monitoring the Q&A while I'm talking. And I am going to I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint, and I'm actually going to share my whole desktop because I have a few things going on. And I'll get here to my PowerPoint. All right, and for those of you, some of you that are on the line, I noticed were with us last week when we were I'll see if I'll be able to pull that back up. When we were doing some regional follow-ups to our Innovation Summit, but I'm the director of the Office of Innovation for Education, and we've only been around for 3 years. For some of you who don't know about us out there, we are actually funded through the ADE, and originally part of the purpose of our office was to go out there and find out what are people doing to meet needs of kids in these areas where it seems like traditional instruction hasn't been meeting their needs, or traditional school hasn't been meeting their needs. And I really, when I first started in this job, I had no clue. So for those of you who are on just to hear ideas, I can very much relate to where you are, because honestly, taking on this as a job and then trying to figure out what do people mean by innovation, it became such a buzzword. But now we have a better sense of that, and 3 years in, we have good connections for you. And the vision for our office is to cultivate and support sustainable innovation in education. And we do that by really helping you to find a focus for innovation that is connected to your needs and to the areas that you believe you want to be working in. We try to provide you with support, whether that's direct support that we provide, whether that's research that is on promising practices, whether that's connecting you to others who are doing what you're hoping to do, or others who are investigating the same opportunities, and then to provide that information out there for people who might be exploring for the first time. And I've posted here our information. We have a website, a Facebook page, a Twitter, and we share a lot of ideas as they come in through our Facebook page, and that runs constantly on our web page. So you can go to our web page and get information. You can also email us here at oie@uark.edu. We are housed at the University of Arkansas, but we work with the entire state and try to get out there when we're needed. We also have a phone number that you can use to contact us as well. And I'll tell you a little bit more about our team at the end when I give you specific contacts for different areas. What we've learned in our work so far is that there are definitely challenges to innovation, and this dovetails nicely, Cindy, with what you were talking about. Hopefully, if you didn't classify it as professional development, it may have just been opportunities that you got staff together or parent groups together, places where you started addressing mindsets and perceptions about education. Because what we've noticed is that when you talk about doing things differently, particularly in areas where people have had a super focus on test scores, there's this response of what we call threat rigidity, where you hunker down and you are afraid of change. And that fear can come from a lot of different things. It could be because you're dealing with fiscal or academic distress, or being designated as priority or focus, or it could be that you have a changing community or a declining community. There's so many different outside influences that can make us feel like we don't have control. What I like about innovation is, for me, it's an opportunity to gain back that sense of, as a school, we can have some control over what we're doing, and we can do it in a positive way through innovation. To do that, though, we do have to deal with some traditional mindsets, and that's one of the reasons why the School of Innovation application requires that 60% of the staff be on board. That doesn't mean everybody has to be on board, but it helps you to set you up for success, because just by doing a vote, you have a sense of what those mindsets are and the weight of those mindsets. So we want to honor what goes on in traditional instruction, but we also want to give the opening for the possibility of introducing doing things a little creatively or a little differently. Technology is something that we've seen adopted as an innovation, and when it's adopted as an innovation, that in and of itself, it can be very problematic. But if it's something that follows what you're doing in terms of your learning and your innovation tool, then if it's a tool and not the solution, you're in a better spot to be successful with it. The other thing that we've learned is that there's all this buzz going on about personalized learning, competency-based learning, all this terminology, and even the word innovation, and that these have become real abstract concepts. A lot of people don't know what they mean or what we're talking about, and so we've been doing some work in the past 18 months to specifically try and help people get a more concrete understanding of this. What we've been doing to do that, to address those issues, is we've been doing a lot of research. So our first year and a half, we went out and we started looking at places, we started going to conferences where people were doing things differently and making connections, and then visiting different schools and different environments to see what they were doing and why was it different and what impact was it having on not just the students, but what impact was it having on the teachers and the leaders and the community and the parents. It's a lot of the places that we've had the privilege to visit have just been phenomenally involved all the way across the board. There isn't a stakeholder that's been left out, and it's been very encouraging. So we've been doing some researching. We've been bringing some of that research to you guys, either through the website or through events that we've held. One of the events we held in September was an innovation summit, and we'll be looking at probably doing that again this next school year. We're talking with Kathy Swan in Virtual Arkansas about the possibility of hosting something like that together, where we bring some of these innovators in so that you can actually have sessions that you can hear directly from them in your interest areas. We've also been going around the state to these regional follow-ups. We just held 2 last week, one in eastern Arkansas at Crowley's Ridge, and then one in northwest Arkansas. And then in February, we'll probably be doing a follow-up somewhere in the south central region. We also do surveys and focus groups to help us identify what it is that we might need to research further, or who are the resources that we can bring to the state to really inform these discussions. We also have had, in terms of the bringing and sending, this year we were fortunate. We got permission to use some of our funding to send 10 people that are in existing schools of innovation to go to a conference at a group called INACOL, and I'll explain who they are in a later slide. But we did that so that they could meet with other schools who were implementing innovative plans, so that they could grow their skills and deeper knowledge, so that they could improve what was going on in implementation in their schools. Because it's not always easy, and sometimes you can feel really alone. And being able to send them so that they could interact with others was just really, it was just such a privilege for us to get to do that. And the other thing that we had permission to do was to bring in these individuals to the summit. Since the summit has occurred, we've also been sending people that have been interested in exploring out to some of these schools that we've had the privilege to see, so that they can actually get a concrete idea of what it looks like in action. So some of that might be us referring you to schools within Arkansas that you could get to without too much travel expense. But then we've also been sending some groups to some of these schools that are outside, that are doing things a little bit differently, that we might not have an example in Arkansas, but we'd like to in the future. And if you're interested, that's what we've been doing. This is a point where I would really like, I'm going to put up a poll. And to do this, I may have to stop my sharing temporarily, but I would love to, nope, here we go. Here's my polling. I'm going to get to launch this. What types of innovations are you interested in or pursuing? And this is going to go in 2 screens because the poll questions only take a limited number, I think 6. But there are a lot of buzzwords out there. Next poll asks you if you're interested in any of these. And what I'd like you to do is go ahead and you can select, the poll is out there. I'll give you a minute to any of these that you're interested in, go ahead and click on them. I believe you should be able to click on more than one. It's multiple select. And let us know if any of these are things that you're interested in learning more about, or if you're developing a plan that you're actually pursuing and hoping to do as part of your plan. We've got personalized learning in general, personalized learning plans for students, flexible schedules, blended learning or blended learning flex, career-focused programs or regional partnerships for those types of things, student-driven learning. Again, these are not mutually exclusive, so go ahead and click on any or all that you're interested in. All right, we've got about 10 more seconds. All right. And there could be a few more that we're going to get to on the next page. So I'm going to end the poll for now, and I'll share the results so that you can see what you guys are interested in. 78% of you are interested in being able to flexibly schedule and also in career-focused and regional partnership programs. And then if you split after that, blended learning or a blended learning type that allows you to flex schedules, which is a great way to go. And then personalized learning and student-driven learning, which sometimes they have similar meanings, but they're not always the same thing. Let's look at one more set of options here. I'll launch this. Do we have anybody out there that's interested in competency-based learning or progression, expeditionary learning, project-based learning, personal competencies, or executive skills? You may not even know what those are, but you might be interested in learning more. Wonderful. I love being able to have everybody participate. I'll give you 10 more seconds. If you're not sure, choose one thing that strikes your fancy. All right. I'm going to end and share this poll. Competency-based, let's see, the one that got the most was project-based learning, which is something that can be a whole focus of a school, or it can be a focus that is part of a personalized learning environment. And then we had 44% interested in learning more about competency-based, or maybe planning to do that, and then personal competencies or executive skills, and then expeditionary learning. So thank you very much, you all, for participating in that. I'm going to stop sharing that, which should remove it from your screen. And let me scroll down. I want to tell you just a little bit briefly, we will make these slides available so that you can go into these resources. But if you're wanting to know more about personalized learning, competency-based learning, or blended learning, then INACOL, which is an organization that supports blended and online learning and competency learning, they have a plethora of resources. They have wonderful practice guides on what it takes to get started, what does it mean, how do you build the will for it, and what can it look like. They also have resources that allow you to go and see, you can find the names of schools or districts that have this going on. Christensen Institute, I need to add to here. I forgot to add them on, but they're another resource. For another set of resources come from the Center for Innovations in Learning. They have a terrific handbook on all kinds of innovations. And what this does is when you click on this link, it gives you a web page, and you can kind of scroll through, and you can get videos that you might use to help explain with your council or with your larger groups that you're talking to. Let me click on that just really quickly and let it launch. But you can see this is the handbook on innovations, and you can hear from the different authors those different innovations and get different ideas. So a lot of really terrific resources here. And then the other thing that they have that I really like as well, INACOL has its own definitions of personalized learning, but they also have some really great information on personal competencies in personalized learning. What those are, I think you'll begin to hear more of these. This is something that at the department we're having a lot of discussions about. The idea that kids have cognitive competencies, that they also have competencies around how they learn and learning about how they learn so that they can become the drivers of their learning. We also have social and emotional competencies and motivational competencies. And these guides are really wonderful. Through the eyes of the students, through the eyes of the teacher, how this particular piece works, it gives you some nice frameworks for all of this. So I want you to be able to take a look at that. Then, there are so many videos out there that you could use to get a glimpse of what it looks like. I've used some videos in my early years. This particular video is called Most Likely to Succeed, and this was put together by the Alliance for Excellent Education. And I love it. Those of you who are particularly interested in both project-based learning, if you're interested in career-focused academies, things like that, I'm going to pull up this trailer for you, if I can get it to launch. And this kind of gives you a quick idea And let's see, it's 2 minutes, so bear with me. I think it's worth the 2 minutes.
We divide the day up in high schools into bits of time, into 40 or 50-minute blocks typically, and then we ring bells and people start to shuffle around the building and do something else. That's an organizational device. It's not an educational principle.
10 university heads in 1890 said, in 11th grade, everyone should learn chemistry. In senior year, everyone should learn physics. A lot of these subjects are great, but these priorities were dictated 124 years ago.
The old blue-collar industrial model of education is already gone. We're already living in its wake.
What happens to society when hundreds of millions of people have that aimless, rudderless feeling of, I've been replaced by a very small box? I don't know if there's a solution. We all learn in different ways. This is the way to do it. This is the way that I did it.
If the assignment is you get it back and you crumple it up and throw it in the trash can, that's kind of one student experience. And if the assignment is to produce something that you're going to present to professionals in the field, that's completely changing the whole dynamic.
We are trying to have that type of complexity and curiosity get inculcated in our students.
Saying your parents, all your friends' parents, and a bunch of people you don't know are going to be here to see the work you did. It creates an aspect of authenticity because we are creating something for an audience.
The things I think in life that give us some of the greatest satisfaction is making something that wasn't there before.
And I can't wait for that moment when it does work and I'm completely done with it. And it's like always, it'll be one of the greatest things.
Kids have that feeling. It's transformative for them. I made this. Everything's coming to look at.
All right. I'm most likely to succeed. It is a longer film, and it is a terrific introduction to what we can really do for kids. And it doesn't fit, I would say that it cuts across anybody trying to put personalized learning, competency-based learning, project-based learning into a box. If you want to see examples of what it can look like with and without technology, this is a great film to use to get a good sense of it. It's just fantastic, and it's available. You'll get this, but you can also just Google most likely to succeed. I know that one of the big barriers we run into is this idea of terminology, and I have been both the victim of confusions over terminology, and I have sometimes been the perpetrator of confusions over terminology. So I will tell you that in some of these cases, there isn't an exact definition of all these terms. Everybody has their own idea, and you are going to find that some of the resources I've given you have similar definitions or similar frameworks with slight nuances of difference. And the idea there is you can get a general idea, but what it's going to look like, how you're going to talk about it in your School of Innovation application is based on how you plan to operationalize it. What is it going to look like in practice? That's the piece that we want to make sure we don't let all of this terminology, personalized learning, student-centered learning, competency-based learning, we're not here to drive a particular agenda. We're here to help you cut through the craziness of all the terminology and connect you and support you with resources that help you come up with how it's going to look in your school based on what you see others doing. You don't have to copy somebody else's model. You can take the best from it and figure out how to personalize it for your school and your students and the needs that you've identified. So all of these different terms, they carry some very interesting weight. Those of you who were with us on Thursday or Friday last week, we had an interesting discussion just about online learning or virtual learning and how that has a particular connotation with some parents and also with some educators. And Ken Grover, who was with us for those 2 days, talked about the barrier it created with his Board of Education because they saw that as replacing the teacher. And so he has moved to talking about digital content and digital textbooks because even if you're learning online, there's a teacher involved in that. So using the terminology, that's something that we can help you. If you've got an idea in your head and you want to know more about it, come talk to us, contact us. We'd like to help you with that. Personalized learning can be as broadly defined as students having some control over the time, when they do their learning, the path they take in their learning, the place that they do their learning, and the pace at which they do their learning. This may or may not be enabled by technology. When you saw that video for Most Likely to Succeed, I've been to High Tech High. I've been out there twice now, and I've visited several of their schools that are in the High Tech High network. And this is different from New Tech. This is not New Tech. This is High Tech High. It's a unique charter system in San Diego. It only exists in San Diego. And each of their schools has a different way of personalizing. And there are commonalities. Within those schools, you will find project-based learning. You will find social-emotional focus in learning. You will find kids who are motivated. You will find teachers who love to come to work. And in some of those places, it's done with technology. In some of those places you saw, there was a student with a good old-fashioned book that had been much loved. So innovation doesn't necessarily mean just computers. I want to get that across. Ken Grover was gracious enough to share some of the slides that he shared last week with us. And he kind of divides up traditional learning and student-focused learning. And I think you're going to hear the term student-focused learning more in the future. But think in terms of traditional learning as teacher-led or differentiated or even blended learning is a form of more traditional learning because teachers still take on some of those traditional roles, but they use other means. Honestly, if you go to what we do in kindergarten and you do the center approach, you're doing some blended learning. In the days today, blended learning involves some type of technology use, some type of digital access to learning. And then student-focused learning really does fall deeper into the personalized learning. You're hearing a lot about competency-based learning, which builds upon the standards reform movement, and it's often described as providing kids with flexibility in how they earn credit. And it is an alternative to the Carnegie Unit. It is a transition from a time-based system to more of a learning-based system. And there are many variations out there. It's defined similarly in general, but the variations are very different in detail. So I've given you some resources here. Some of the most excellent resources are the Competency Works will give you a lot of information on the generalities, and so will this Center for Secondary School Redesign, where they're actually working in Springdale, Arkansas, but they're also very busy in a few other states, particularly up in the New England states. They have a ton of resources that you can connect to, and they're all free. It was all paid by your federal tax dollars at work. And this I3TA guide is the other link I gave you. They have incredible videos. It is so inspiring to hear students talk about their work and talk about their learning. If you need resources that will motivate teachers and parents and community, listen to these kids talk about what's different in their learning. I've listened to kids who have designed courses that they are now co-teaching with instructors at their high schools. It's phenomenal. I listened to one kid who talked about he was torn between going into engineering or into science education. And so he co-taught an engineering class with a teacher at his school, his high school. And it really taught him. Everybody was telling him, you need to be an engineer, you need to be an engineer. You're so smart, that's what you need to do. And he realized just how smart and how all the thinking and critical reasoning that he was being commended for as a student was just as necessary to be a teacher as it was to be an engineer. And it's just a really motivating video to look for at this site. So it's just so much fun, some of the resources that we've had the privilege to see, and I really I'm thrilled that you get to to see them. Some of the implementation factors, key factors are envisioning. That's why you see it in that school plan. Partnering, if you need help with that, partnering within your district or partnering with other districts who are doing it. You can partner with us in such a way that we just connect you to other resources or provide support. But know that implementation is a multi-year commitment, and that's why those timelines. Think in terms of doable. You know, if you're going to change this, then you expect this to happen. But think about the reasonableness of that timeline and talk to us if you need help in putting that together. So my last poll is, what are your next steps? What assistance do you need? And I'm going to share this poll and ask you if you would please just give us a general idea. Or do you want more learning about innovation? Connect you to others who are innovating, guide you to ideas and information, help you figure out, or do you need help specifically with the plan itself? So if you'll go ahead and just give us an idea of what your needs are, then that helps us too to know so that we can be doing what we need to do to support you. So I think we'll get to that point where I'll give you about 10 more seconds. You may want to do both. I just don't know. All right, I'm going to end the poll. Get your last votes in. Great. All right. I'll share the results. It looks like for our audience that's out there right now, it's a pretty good, there's a little bit of both. Many of you that are planning really want that support with the planning, and then those of you who are still learning about innovation and thinking down the line, looks like you've got some needs as well. So that's very, very helpful, and I really appreciate you all working with us on that. So how can we help the Office of Innovation? As Cindy mentioned, she is your go-to when it comes to that application and making sure that you've got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed and answering your questions about, is this complete? Do we have what we need? We have staff here, Marcia Hash, Jennifer Williams, and myself. We really, we're out there talking to people, looking at ideas, helping you make connections, providing guidance on that transformation process. How do you build the will? We also have incredibly wonderful technology resources for innovation. You, of course, have Virtual Arkansas and their whole staff, but we also have Santosh Anand and Kyle Cowan, and they can be of assistance to you as well. I know Santosh would really love to build apps to make your life easier. And I know that both Santosh and Kyle have been looking at how do we take all the information out there and winnow it down to help you. One of the things that we've been talking about doing is putting together a rubric that could help you kind of go through and evaluate all those vendors that knock on your door and say, we have a learning management system for you. So we are working on that sort of work, and we're here to help you if you need that sort of assistance. And I am going to stop there. I noticed that we are at 1 hour and 15 minutes. I do have a few other slides that may or may not be of assistance. I will stop sharing for now and see if Cindy, if you have anything else you want to add.
No, but we do have a question.
I see it. I may have missed the topic, but the School of Innovation grant. This is a one-time grant for the initial 3 years, with schools having to assume the continuous grant. I'll answer that live. What I think you may be referring to are the grants that APSRC has offered this last year. I don't know if they have plans to offer again to the next round. You would need to contact, Barbara Hunter Cox. Thank you, Cindy. She would be your go-to person on those School of Innovation grants. We had an interesting discussion yesterday. The commissioner is holding these forums on excellence in education, or educational excellence. And that was a question that came up was, you know, we're all interested in doing innovation, but what about resources to do that? So there are discussions going on because I believe charter money is not going to be available in this next round. So there are a lot of discussions going on about how do we also incentivize innovation with resources. But if you're dealing with an existing budget and you know, that we have people out there who have done this with no extra budget, and we can connect you with them to help you find out if there aren't additional resources, how do you make it work with your existing resources? So that's something too that we can help you with. We can connect you to those who have managed that somehow. Seems like the impossible, but they've been able to do it. Good question. Thank you.
I want to stress, if there's any questions about the application, please contact me. And if you get it in by January 29th, that is where we're going to give you the ideas. You can send it to me before the 29th, and I will look at all the technical stuff to make sure you have everything in place. But even after, if you wait till the 29th, we'll also address any technical needs, but we'll also have some input on your plan. If we think there's things that you need, like the PD part. If we feel like there's part of the PD that may be missing to make it successful, then we'll talk about that. Or even the how are you going to know that you've gotten there, you know, how are you going to recognize it once you meet your goals? So those are the kinds of things that we will help, because there's everybody up here wants you to get the School Innovation title. Yep. So we're here to help you is what we're going to do. So please call me, and I know Denise is open and she's got help, but please call me if there's any questions about the application, and I'll be glad to help you.
Yeah. And we have a newsletter that we send out periodically. If you go to our website, you can navigate to the link to sign up for the newsletter, because as we do different events, we're going to post them on our website, but we'll also announce them through the newsletter. So it's like signing up. We don't send it out too regularly because I am a victim of way too many listservs, and we try to limit that. But if you're interested in that information, and then also Facebook, if you like us on Facebook, you'll receive our announcements, and we do tend to share quite a bit through Facebook. Oh, one more question I see just popped up. It is, I will answer this one via text, and then Cindy, you're going to post this, right?
Yes, we will. I don't know how long it takes it to get to us, but as soon as we get it, we will be posting it.
All right, I'm going to send this one, and then I'll also put our email in this, and you can send us an email, and we can send you how to sign up for that as well. So that was just answered via text. What else? I love the fact that we can do this through the question and answer.
Yes. And there was a question we did answer out loud about, can the dates for the PD be future dates? And Denise answered that on the chat too, so everybody can see that. But there are two sections. Remember that one is what you're going to do before, as in what have you done actually before you even wrote the plan and everything. Or no, it could be after you wrote the plan, but what are you going to do before you get the grant, and what are you going to do afterwards? And let me correct myself, it's not a grant. It is we'll give you the title as a School of Innovation, and you do get waivers to do that, but we do not have money to give out.
Yeah.
I wish we did, but we don't.
There you go.
Well, I appreciate y'all coming. Denise, I appreciate your help. You did a great job too.
And you too. Yes. It's very helpful. You know, this has been a work in progress. The opportunity's been around. This is the third window of opportunity to apply, and things change each year as everybody learns through the process. And I know I've spoken with some of you that expressed some reluctance because the first year so many people applied and so few were approved. But the process has been improved and streamlined, and feedback is much more available. And as Cindy said, there is a commitment to helping you to be successful. So apply, and we'll do all we can to help you out with that. Thanks for your attention today.
There's one more question.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have to apply for School of Innovation after receiving the waiver the first year? So I'll say that we're going to answer this live. So what may be interesting here is you've got the School of Innovation, Cindy, that's a 4-year. You get that for 4 years, correct?
I thought it was 3 years.
Oh, I've got it.
Carter's 5.
I've got it here unless they amended it.
They probably hadn't, but it's always referred to around here as 3 years. But I can tell you that once you get it, if it's being successful, you can continue it. That's not going to be a problem. You get permission. But if you feel like at some point you need to amend it, or you feel like you're showing growth but you've not reached where you want to, that will also be taken in consideration too.
Here's the plan. Shall ensure blah, 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 blah. Before a public. Okay. This is hard. I'm reading it on my little device, which with my older eyes is not the best place to read it. But I for some reason, I was certain.
We'll get that to you.
It is 4 years. A School of Innovation shall be approved and designated for a period of 4 years and may be renewed for 4-year periods thereafter at the Commissioner's discretion. Oh, one of the questions that came up, Cindy, was once they are a School of Innovation, if they need additional waivers, do they just amend their plan or do they have to submit through the whole process again?
You know, if it's already your plan, you're not changing your plan, you're just trying to strengthen it, or you found out you needed this to work, it can be done through an amendment process. Okay. We got another question about address and date of a meeting in South Arkansas. We're still in the planning phase, but it looks like it will be in February, mid-February. And we are still looking for a place. We know that we have some schools in Southwest, some schools in Southeast, and some South Central who are very interested. So we'll be looking for something that will reduce the drive time across the board. So we probably won't be on the Southwest side. We probably won't be on the Southeast. We'll probably be closer to the Central at one of the, and generally what we do is we try to get a meeting space at one of the co-ops in that area so that everybody can come together. At the prior 2 meetings, we've had at least 3 co-ops represented at those different meetings. So it's not, even if we hold it at a co-op, it's not limited to that co-op. It's across whoever is interested and wants to attend. So I would look at, it's going to be mid-February, and we're trying to finalize those dates as soon as possible because I know if your calendar's like mine, it gets out of control quickly. Thank you very much, and we're going to end the program now.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Look forward to working with you.